Good morning, everybody. We are live as far as I can tell. So I'm Karl. Welcome to my State of the Nation address for 2021. It's always an interesting thing, and I'm grateful after 12 years that I can still get an audience to show up. More people are joining all the time, but let me get going, and we'll have other people join as they see fit. We'll come back to this theme, but the theme of today is that was the year that was, although we're going to spend more time looking to the future than looking to the past. So 2020 was quite a year. I don't think anybody who's an adult at this time is going to forget 2020, but it is time to move on. And folks who are in my community or seen some recent webinars know that my current favorite quote is from Heraclitus: "No one ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and you're not the same person." So, part of what we're going to talk about today is how we sort of put things on hold in 2020. And then, we want to unpause that button and just keep going. But you can't do that. The world, whether you like it or not, has changed. The economics have changed. The industry has changed. The technology has changed. And so when we unpause our button and get back in the swing of things, we are getting back in the swing of a new set of things. But it's just the way the world works, right? So, all righty, let us proceed. So for those of you who are new to me, thank you for being here. My name is Karl. I have written many books, including, at this point, all of the best-selling books on managed services on Amazon. And the biggest seller of all time is Managed Services in a Month. And so that's one of these books that, I'm grateful. Again, I think everybody on this call has read that book. But, that there's a certain set of things that allow me to start a conversation. And one of them is, hey, I've got a way that I think you should do managed services. And it may not be the right way, but I think it's a pretty good way to get started. So anyway, today we're going to talk about what I call the state of the nation for SMB IT. I encourage you to not use the chat. I've asked Kara to kind of pay attention to the chat. Kara runs my online community. She's the community manager. But I'm going to pay attention to the Q&A. And so if you could put questions in the Q&A section, that would be awesome. If you want to tweet about this or put something on Facebook or LinkedIn, the hashtag SBT, Small Biz Thoughts, would be appreciated. And if you're not connected to me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all that happy stuff, please feel free to connect with me. I think I don't have a lot of direct connections available on Facebook, but I do have a Small Biz Thoughts page, as well as you can follow my personal profile there. So today, if you can't hear me, unmute your speakers. As strange as it sounds, we get about one of those calls, one of those emails every time we do a webinar. Please use the question and answer panel. I will try to remember to click the answer live so that everybody can see the question and you don't have to hear me mumble the repeat of the question. This is being recorded. We are also live on YouTube, which I don't announce beforehand because if something goes wrong, I have no interest in fixing it. So it's better to register for the webinar, in my opinion. The replay of this will be at the same location that you signed up. So smbwebinar.com. is where the replay will be posted when this is all over. So that's that. These are my brands. So I'll just get this promotion out of the way. Memorize, visit every one of these websites and sign up and follow and blah, blah, blah. Take a screenshot if you need to, but we do a lot of things. And one of the things that we do that's different from a lot of brands is that I have many different branded websites. And I'll be honest, I'll give you a clue to my success. I want everybody who's remotely interested in managed services or IT consulting to be within about 3 clicks of one of my websites, no matter where they are on the internet. So to that end, I've spread out my net by having a wide variety of things. And these are legit brands. I mean, SMB smallbusinessthoughts.org is my community. My books are at the store. The Road Show is on the Road Show site. All of our classes, which we have 10 classes a year, they're a great little seminar, right? So, these aren't just throwaway domains. There's actual stuff there, and I'd appreciate it if you would give them a look. Final announcement before we get down to business. Tomorrow, I know everybody's having a very busy week. Tomorrow, I'm doing a webinar with Acronis. The focus of my presentation is stop buying tools that kill your productivity. And you'll see what that's all about. Obviously, the topic is going to be on cybersecurity related stuff. If you go to bit.ly/KP-stop01, that will get you to the registration page for that. So with luck, we just had 46 people sign up for that webinar. All righty. So today I want to do a couple of announcements, which we just finished, and then some thoughts on 2020, and then look forward to some thoughts on 2021 and some things that I think that you should take advantage of at this moment with this foot in this stream, right? Well, you are this person. What can you do when you step into the stream today in 2021? So if you're old enough, and I know many people on this call are not, you might remember there's a guy named Tom Lehrer who was a comedian, and he used to write funny songs. And he had a show that's called That Was the Week That Was. And then he put out an album called That Was the Year That Was. And if you are interested, go search for this. It's really funny stuff. And, when you look back at this, he is looking at 1965, which was a year of unprecedented civil rights demonstrations, people literally burning down cities. The Cold War was a huge topic. And oddly enough, they were talking about implementing a thing called new math. So when you think about, whatever is new, old becomes new again. I had forgotten that we went through new math, but I learned math differently from my parents. And so if you're a parent who's trying to figure out the new math, the Common Core math or whatever they call it, just remember this has happened before, right? So the reason I wanted this theme is that I want us to actually look and say, first of all, to be honest, there was a lot more turmoil in 1965 than there is today. We stand on the shoulders of people who did amazing stuff back then so that we could live in a society that we live in today and have the rights and freedoms that we have today. So just remember that what you are experiencing, you are very close to it. And the world that you see in front of you at this minute is not the whole world. And with time, with luck, we'll be able to have a sense of humor about it and maybe even sing songs about the themes of the day. So anyway, so I always do stats, and holy smokes, I went to 2 live events in 2020, which for me is literally I'm down 24. So I didn't do the percentages, but 24 out of 26. uh, and usually I visit, 15 to 20 cities a year. And so that was down to 2. And, I'm usually go to 2 or 3 countries. I had planned to go to Australia last year and that didn't happen. Now, I did personal travel, so that's not listed here. But my live presentations were way, way down. And like many of you, I stepped off the plane in March 5th, and basically stayed home after that. But we did do 10 courses over at Great Little Seminar. I produced 243 blogs and 169 videos, 111 podcasts, including some with my friends Ryan and Dave on the Killing It podcast, Amy and James on the SMB Community podcasts, and I started a new series called the Cheeky Sales Coach podcast. So, and then of course I do a weekly newsletter and a couple of monthly newsletters. So, I haven't been bored sitting at home. I also managed somehow to write 3 books. So when I look ahead to the year ahead, I want to get at least halfway back to the kind of stats that I had before. I'd like to visit a dozen cities and at least one other country this year. So we shall see how that goes. For 2021, if you haven't checked these out yet, I recommend that you look at the books that I put together, in particular, The Absolutely Unbreakable Rules of Service Delivery. This is a book about rules to live by. Like, for example, get paid in advance for everything that you can. And as we are in the recession, a lot of people have already learned the lesson that they wish they had gotten paid in advance for a lot of the services that they had, because when their clients started having problems with the recession, the cash disappeared. And so their clients couldn't pay them even if they wanted to. So rules like that don't change just because there's a pandemic or just because there's a recession. Also, do business with people you like, right? That's a huge rule for me, and that doesn't change during the recession. In fact, I have to be honest, one of the great relationships that I built prior to the pandemic was with SureWeb. And the first thing that happened when we started shutting down the economy is the folks at SureWeb got a hold of me and they said, we want to send messages to our partners and let them know that we're going to help them and we're going to be there for them and so forth. Can you put together some videos for us? And I mean, it was like instantaneous. And so, not to give them free advertising, but it's an example of working with people that you really enjoy working with. And if you pick the right partners, they will come through at times like this. And so, I always say, you get the life you build. Well, you get the business you build as well. So anyway, so the Absolutely Unbreakable Rules is the book I recommend for you. And it's like $25 or $20 or something. So we also have new courses going on. Lori Hartke's just amazing course. I think she's got 35 or so people registered already. Started this week, and it's on how to be a super successful entrepreneur. And so we have lots of stuff that we're constantly doing. I used to have a massive calendar every week in my newsletter for all the events that are going on in our community, but I only list live in-person events. So it's a smaller list than it was, but it's growing. I got the ASCII dates, and I have my community meeting dates. And so if you sign up for my newsletter, you'll see that. So big announcement for this year. The SMB Road Show is back. So if they let me into Canada in May, we'll be doing road shows in Vancouver, Montreal, and Toronto, and then probably hop down into Rhode Island because Rhode Island got renamed this year. So I figured I'm going to go visit them now that they're a whole new state. And many of you don't know that Rhode Island, one of the things that happened January 1st, I think, was Rhode Island has a new name. So anyway, if I can't get into Canada in May, I'm assuming I'll be able to get there in September. So I have great faith that we are going to get enough people vaccinated and get this pandemic behind us. So that information is now live at SMB Road Show. Registration is open. If you are a member of the Small Biz Thoughts technology community, if you don't know how to get a hold of your code to get the discounts, contact Kara and do not pay full price. For those of you who are not in the community, the greatest discount in IT consulting in the 21st century is the Small Biz Thoughts community. So depending on whether you get the annual or the monthly subscription, all my stuff is either reasonably priced, super cheap, or free. So, all right. So let's talk about the year behind and the year ahead. So last year I had this quote, which was, just a generic motivational, no plan survives the first contact with the enemy. And that turned out to be far more prescient than I imagined, right? My thought was, that you got to have a plan for 2020. You got to have a plan for the year ahead. But just remember that the plan has to be flexible. And just because you have a plan doesn't mean you get to work the plan that you have. One alternate version of this is from boxer Mike Tyson, who said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? Or until they get punched in the mouth. So, we had a plan for 2020. We thought that we were going to do certain things, and then that got derailed. Well, 2021 is our opportunity to kind of finish that. And believe it or not, there's some seriously obvious opportunity for you in the year ahead. So that's what I want to talk about. And people like to joke about 2020, and with luck, a lot of people on Facebook are, taking a lighter view of all of this. But remember that the people you're dealing with are human beings, and they have kids that are not in school. They're 3 people sharing a small apartment trying to work from home. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of negative consequences from the stress. And if you, and I think most of you, are probably living in the same house and doing the same stuff and having a reasonably good environment, just remember a lot of the people that you're working with are not that lucky. And so we need to be aware that these are human beings who, are now approaching 12 months of being shut in, some of them with less employment, some of them with unemployment. So remember that human side of things. Also, remember, when we start to come out of the recession, there's a very standard thing that happens economically as we come out of any recession, and that is businesses try to get as much labor as they can out of their existing employees before they commit to hiring another employee. In other words, if you think about it, you want to make sure that you have your revenue pretty much guaranteed before you commit to hiring somebody at $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year. And so the result is that we will see a spike in productivity as the economy improves. Productivity is simply, it's a simple measure. It is the amount of labor that you get per person. And so if you are delaying hiring somebody, then you get as much work as you can out of the people you have before you add another person. And so you're going to see this spike in productivity followed by the actual improvement of the economy. So I'm not an economist and I'm not a financial advisor. And there's one guy who's on this call, and I can time it. By the time I get off this call, he will have sent me an email telling me that I have no right talking about the economy and blah, 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 because I'm not licensed and whatever the hell. So all I can say is I have 30 some years in business, and I'm just talking from my perspective. So take all of this with a grain of salt. So if you look at the last year, we started the year at about 28,500 on the Dow and about 30 and a half, or we ended on 30,600. So it went up a little, not quite 10%, 6, 7, 8%. But holy smokes, the ride was quite dramatic. And a year ago, I posed the question that, we're kind of overdue for a correction. Now, normally a correction is going to be 10%, 20%. It's usually not 30%. But we definitely got our correction. Now, that looks bad, but again, I want you to look back 5 years. When you look back 5 years, you'll see that this was a steep correction. But this is when people talk about the V-shaped correction, the V-shaped recovery, that's it. Like it's right there. And if you look at the line and turn that V shape into a dotted line, you see that we're doing just fine. And so remember that the stock market is not the entire economy. It is a piece of it, but it doesn't represent all of it. And so I think fundamentally that the economy is good. I think there's actually a lot of pent up spending that's going to happen as soon as people feel comfortable. We also have to remember that we were not all affected the same in this economy. So 2020, I predicted that 5G was going to take over the world. Well, I have to say, I am ridiculously disappointed in what the technology companies have done with 5G. I like to joke that, my phone is fully icon compatible with 5G. In other words, I've got a 5G icon on my phone, but I don't have 5G service. And most of you don't either. The number of locations that actually have usable 5G is only grown. It's a decent percent, but a small amount, right? So that was a total miss for me. I did suggest that we would have smart speakers and smart lights and smart cameras and all of that everywhere. And that has certainly been the case. I use my good friend Dave Sobel as one example and my daughter as another. My daughter has a vacuum cleaner that, she controls with Alexa. She hears a dog break something and she tells Alexa to start the vacuum cleaner and go clean it up. She uses Alexa to open the garage door and control her microwave. I don't even know what you do on a microwave with Alexa when you're in another room, but whatever. So that is certainly, been working very well. The camera piece, I thought there would be more cameras than there are now, but that's just my belief. One super important thing that happened in our industry is that the age of amateurs is over. And I said that last year. And with regard to ransomware, I said at minute 54 last year that clients won't put up with rampant ransomware and that they're going to make somebody pay. I pointed out that liability insurance is going to play a bigger role because they can't afford to have clients who get ransomware. And you can't afford to have clients who refuse to invest in their own technology. And so that's tied to the age of amateurs. our industry is one where everybody always seems to think that all you have to do is be able to open a computer and add some software patches, get people connected to the internet, and you're some kind of a genius, and you should get $150 an hour for that. Well, those days literally are over. They've been over for a year now. And so the result of that, as you know, is that legislators have discovered who we are, insurance companies have discovered who we are, and there's been a lot of changes. And luckily, there's at least one good piece of news about this. So one of the things that happened with the shift to home is that clients see for some of them for the first time that they want to pay you money, right? Like what we did was awesome as an industry. Everybody got sent home, and we turned to our clients and said, let me hook you up. We'll put in cameras. We'll give you an extra screen. We'll upgrade those machines. We'll make sure it's all secure. We'll connect all of your workers remotely. We will make this happen. And for us, I mean, we've been doing webinars and online conferences and remote administration for 15 or 20 years. So this was literally old news to us, but we showed our clients instantaneously that we could help them out. And I think that's huge. And we are kind of unsung heroes for our piece of what we did with this economy. But remember also that these people, for many of them, hadn't expected to spend this money. And all of a sudden, they opened their wallets and paid for it. And it's because there was no question that this was useful. So if you've had problems historically getting clients to pay for your services or see the value in your services, remember, I always love this example, right? They're driving $70,000 car, but complaining about your $1,000 a month bill, right? It's because they see value in their car. They don't see value in your services. This year, we showed them the value of our services, and you have the ability to help continue that in the next phase, which is helping a lot of them get back to their offices. So when we looked at that little, blip on the economy, I think there's a similar thing happening with remote work. I personally believe that almost everybody is going back to the office, and there's a very simple reason for that. I know it's small print for some of you, but down at the bottom, there's a whole bunch of industries, about 28% of the workforce, I figure, cannot work remote. There's another 62% that are partly remote. And, for the most part, they can't work from home all the time. So we have to remember, the world that you see is not the whole world, right? But your experience of working in a white collar job with white collar clients, you're only about 15% of the workforce that can work permanently remotely. And of that 15%, a good chunk just don't want to work remotely. They want to go back to the water cooler. They want to talk to their fellow employees. They want to enjoy the social part of having a job. So I expect that we will be very busy, probably starting, on the anniversary in March. So April, May, June, I expect we'll be very busy putting people back into their offices. And that's the opportunity for you. You need to start today to put together appointments to talk to your clients and find out when they are going back to the office and what that looks like. Some of them will be long-term, but I think most of them are going to go back to the office. So, I record these, and we'll see you again next year, but that's my prediction. I think some permanently mixed offices will emerge, but most people are going to go back to their offices. And the change right? The river that they're stepping into, the change is that they have discovered Zoom. They've discovered online meetings. There'll probably be a permanent 10% drop in travel because you don't need it. But there's also a social aspect to going to conferences. And so your clients are still going to hold conferences if they hold conferences, and they're going to attend if they attend. But they're going to put in a mix of these things. So you should start putting together quotes for getting a big screen TV, setting up Zoom with good cameras in people's conference rooms, because now the concept of a Zoom room, which is a whole different piece of Zoom if you haven't looked at it, it's very feasible. It is the future. And I think that, we're going to have a very normal thing where we walk into conference rooms and there's a big TV with the camera set up for Zoom. Again, this is old school for most of us, but it's new to your clients and they see value in it. So think about what that looks like. And just remember, that's your big opportunity. Unfortunately, and that's what I would call a positive opportunity. It's an opportunity to help them with you going into it knowing you're all facing in the same direction and you have the same goals. There's also an opportunity that comes from the negative side of things, and that is, unfortunately, I believe 2021 is the year that your clients are going to come under attack in a new way. In 2020, not just the Russians, which, by the way, as far as I'm concerned, it looks like the attacks from Russia are basically a mafia organization with a standing army and an unlimited budget. And when they decide to go after you, I have to say, I have nothing negative to say about SolarWinds because every single other vendor could be next. The Russians and others are working as hard as they can to get into those RMM systems. And the next thing they're going to go after is everybody who uses QuickBooks, everybody who uses Salesforce, right? Everybody who uses a cloud-based medical records system, because your clients have systems similar to yours, right? We've all talked about the line of business application. Well, every business you support, almost every business, has a line of business application. And I think that's going to be the preferred attack vector of 2021. Remember, with artificial intelligence, these a-holes, once they find success, they can multiply it by 1,000 instantaneously. And so it is unfortunate that you need to be the front line for that, but that's the job you've chosen for yourself, and it is what it is. So my prediction is what happened to the IT industry in 2020 is going to happen to many other industries in 2021. And we don't know who's going to be first, whether it's going to be doctors or architects or people who use Salesforce or whatever, but I believe it will happen. And so it becomes super critical that you get your contracts in order and get your insurance in order and make sure that you understand the financial liabilities that you have because you are in this business. So there's that. I also think this is a great opportunity, and the people in my community this month will be receiving updates to roadmap meetings that we're planning. But basically, you can figure this all out for yourself. You need to have roadmap meetings with your clients and find out, are they going back to the office? When are they going back? Is there a group that's coming back first? Is everybody coming in at once, right? What does it look like to get back to the office? What technology has to be updated, right? Hold these meetings with your clients, and you can hold them on Zoom, right? But, tune up that sales process so that it is focused on helping them get the most out of their technology. if they put machines out of service in the recession, the question is, it's been a year, are they still usable, or should they be, recycled and replaced? Again, what's the plan? What's the timeline? Do they need new equipment? Do they need security updates? We know that the world, the river that we're stepping into in 2021 is more dangerous than it was a year ago. There's far more bad guys with far more, much more money and resources, and they got a plan. And it's always the case. The old analogy of the castle with the moat and the ramparts and all of that. Well, that's not the world we live in anymore, right? Now we live in a world where every piece of mortar that connects every two pieces of brick is the entry point for the bad guys. And the only thing that hasn't changed is that you have to protect every single entry point, but the evil people only have to pick one place that they want to enter, and they can beat on it with unlimited resources until they get in. So you've got to have a plan. The financial threat, unfortunately, is super, super real. And I think one of the biggest problems we have, and I don't have an answer for this, but if you can figure out how to support really small companies who need IT but can't afford a BDR, can't afford high-end firewalls, honestly can't afford to protect themselves, they will be crushed in 2021. And I don't know how to support them. I'm a big believer that you need to get paid for your work. So you couldn't give away enough hours to support all the people who can't afford managed services. But they are the biggest challenge we have. And if somebody can figure out a reasonable way to secure those offices, I think that there's tremendous opportunity. But you have to remember that, basically, if somebody's making whatever, $150,000, $200,000 top line revenue, they literally can't afford your services. They don't have enough money sitting around to give you $1,000 a month. And so quite realistically, somebody has to figure out how to help them. And I don't know what the answer to that is, but there's your challenge if you want to take it on. But remember, you have to focus on making your business successful and profitable in 2021. And like everything else, that doesn't happen by itself. So one of the problems with getting the insurance companies involved in this is ransoms will go up because now they know that an insurance company is paying for it. And so, that means lawsuits are going to increase and legislation is going to increase. So I don't want to in any way diminish what a challenge this is going to be. And to be honest, there will be people who will just say, I give up. It's a great time for me to get out of this business and go do something else. Now, on the good side, big cheers to my friend Mike Semmel. I posted on all my social media a link that he had put out about NIST being adopted in new legislation as a legitimate way for you to implement HIPAA compliance. And one of the problems with HIPAA is like one of the worst written laws ever, is that it didn't have requirements of what constitutes HIPAA compliance. And so, as Mike has been saying for many years, HIPAA compliance basically consists of whatever judges decide is out of compliance. And so you've had to sort of figure out how to be compliant. And we have similar things with all of the privacy regulations that's been coming out the last few years. And so NIST and CMMC are the two standards that If you are not up to spec on, here's a great opportunity to set up your training for 2021 and have yourself and your staff. Somebody needs to know this stuff and know how you will implement it. Remember, the greatest power that you have as a business owner is process. You can't control people. You can't control salespeople. You can't control employees. You can't control customers. You can't control the bad guys, but you can control your process. And if you have processes that say, this is how we set up computers, this is how we set up doctors, this is how we set up lawyers, then you can create processes that are compliant with the privacy laws and the security laws. And so that, again, that's a great opportunity, and that applies to every single client you've got. At a minimum, they need to be PCI compliant. All of the states, all of the countries in Europe, most other countries have laws that govern privacy and related stuff. And so you got to figure out how you work in a way that you're compliant. And again, we're now in an era where it's okay to go to clients and say, I can't afford to have clients who are going to intentionally break the law. So if you're not going to do this, you need to go find somebody else to give you tech support. And I know, I always see it. Every time I say that, somebody pops up on Reddit and says, Karl doesn't understand what it's like to be a small business owner, blah, blah, blah. Well, let me just tell you, Karl has built from scratch 3 small businesses. I completely and absolutely understand. But I also understand you can't have liabilities that are so great that one mistake can put you out of business. And so you literally can't afford to have clients who can't afford to be secure, can't afford to be compliant. And so that's the world you live in. And what you're going to find is suddenly the money is going to appear. So when it becomes important enough, the money will magically appear. So here's a few things I think that you should do in 2021. The first thing is, kind of as a background, look at the online piece, right? I just heard on the radio this morning, so I didn't have time to put a slide up for this, but Target grew their sales store over store, year over year, 17% last year. Their e-marketing, their online sales grew by 100% in 2020. And it's interesting because, I buy all my crap at Amazon, but there are people who are brand loyal to Target. There are people who are brand loyal to you. There are people who want to spend money with people they know, they like, and they trust. And that is an opportunity for you to literally start putting things on your website. If you need help putting up a store, get in touch with me. We will figure out how to help you. I think that you should be selling the ideal Q1 laptop right off your website. I think you should be selling the ideal Q1 desktop right off your website. People should be able to go to your website and buy a firewall, buy cloud services, buy your Cloud 5 pack, buy Office 365. And then you will get the order and you will rush out and implement it. And, it might be that it'll be a little bit different, that there's things that they don't understand, but it's a place to start. Don't start with trying to do everything online, but start with the basics. And I think that you'll be hugely successful. I also think that you should begin roadmap meetings. And I mean, today you should pick up the phone or send an email to every single client and start scheduling them. You can make this manageable. You can say, look, on whatever, Tuesday afternoons, I have appointments at 1 and 3 to do Zoom meetings with clients. Have your administrative assistant contact every client and just fill in those slots for the next month or so. And start meeting with your clients, start having these meetings. And what you're going to see is they want to talk to you. They're grateful to talk to you. They want to talk about their technology. They want to talk about their business. A lot of these business owners have been alone in their house with their kids stuck in the house because they can't go to school. They are grateful to talk to you about their business and what their plans are for the year ahead. Them improve their business, and make sure that you do it all, completely compliant, and make sure that they understand that the security is just not going to fix itself, and that there's nothing less secure in the world today than a piece of equipment on site at their office, that they need to get thee to a cloud as quickly as possible. And the final note I want to tell everybody before we go to questions is that you need to do things with intention. And again, the people inside my community have access to a book that I wrote just for my community on the year of intention. And it is all about how you plan for the next year. And, for the rest of you, what I highly encourage you to do, I bet half the people on this call have me on a second monitor and are doing something else over here. In other words, you're getting at most 40% of this content. I think you should choose what you're going to attend very carefully in 2021. If there was a conference that completely sucked last year, I don't think you should be expected to go to that conference again. Now, if they are going to improve, if they have new, better content, if they have a better format, if they have better engagement, better interactivity, then by all means, you should do that. But you should pick it very carefully. Don't attend every webinar that comes along. Don't attend every class that comes along. Don't attend every conference that comes along. All of those things cost your time and your money and your attention. And if you then keep a second monitor open or a third monitor open and split your attention and basically don't get value out of it because of your own personal practices, well, then, it's better to just not do those things. Go take a walk. It'll be better for your mental health and better for your business than doing a half-ass approach to education. Choose the conferences you're going to attend online, and when the world opens up, which ones you're going to attend in person, and set goals. Who do you want to meet while you're there? Who do you want to talk to? Do you want to make a contact with a sales rep? Do you want to make a contact with a technical rep? Figure out what you need out of that conference that will improve your business. Write down those goals, and then you don't have to send the evaluation to the conference organizer, but for yourself, write an evaluation of what you got out of that conference. What was good? What was bad? What was boring? What did you learn? If you paid for it, at what point did it actually pay for itself? And then commit. If you're going to watch a webinar, just watch the webinar, right? Interact with it, write some notes, do what you can to make sure that everything you do in your business is done with intention, so you're always moving forward. Here's a great quote from Aristotle that I hope you can use as part of your mindset for the year. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Your habits for your excellent business, for your personal life, for your growth, for your employees, all happens with intention. My big philosophy of life, I think it's been on every slide deck I've made in the last 20 years. Nothing happens by itself. And I got 2 whiteboards here. It's written at the top of each whiteboard, and it's written at the top of the whiteboard in my other office as well. Nothing happens by itself. You have to decide how you want this year to go. You got to write down a plan, and you got to start moving in that direction, deciding what training you need, what materials you need, what help you need. And if we can help, please get a hold of us at smallbizthoughts.org. All right, so let's go to questions. If you have questions, put them in the Q&A section, and I will be happy to take a look at them. So William says, have you thought about a course on insurance coverage recommendations for MSPs? I'd be interested in your experience and advice. So I hadn't thought about that until this moment. But I'll see what we can come up with. That's a good recommendation. Amy Babinchak did a couple of interviews on the SMB Community podcast regarding insurance, and some, some good thoughts and some people to get connected to. It's interesting. This is a growing industry. Insurance is all about statistics, basically, that, there are so many people that are going to have this problem or that problem, and it's going to cost this much money, and, all of that. And so, unfortunately, we don't have hard numbers on what that looks like. If you look at a level 2 hurricane hitting a certain county in Oklahoma, we have enough history to know how much damage that's going to cause and what it's going to cost an insurance company. A ransomware hitting 6 attorneys in Sacramento, we don't have good enough information on that. I will say that's an opportunity to work with insurance people, and at least one person in our community has not had good luck. It makes perfect sense, but he just couldn't get people to care. That you should be going out with an insurance person and saying, look, they will sell you the insurance. I will implement what it takes to be compliant, so you actually get a payout if something goes wrong, and then we'll secure your network. So there is great opportunity there. Dennis says he wants to have a conversation about e-commerce. Excellent. We shall do that. Dave Sobel, there's a YouTuber who focuses on this space. I interviewed him on my show twice. Well, you should put that in the chat if you have a link. Deanna, regarding putting items for sale on our website, how does that fit with only working with managed clients? Well, you can have a site where people have to have a code, right? There's lots of ways of doing that, saying, here's our site. Or that some things could be just listing prices, but people can only buy hardware, for example, off your site, and don't let them buy the managed service component unless they are already a client. So you can also have, it's real easy to have sites where you basically say the price is whatever, $100,000. But if you're a client, go get your code and put it in here, and then it comes down to being $1,200 a month. Anyway, you're in the community, so we will talk about this. It's literally one of the things that Karen and I have on our internal roadmap for this year. All right, so I think when I push that everybody can see the video that that Dave had posted. And if not, let me know. David Wadley, larger employers are getting employees vaccinated as a group on site. Any idea how small shops can band together to get vaccinated? I do not have any ideas on that. My plan is that I have health insurance, and basically when Kaiser sends me an email, I'm going to go down and get in line. At least in Sacramento, I know that they are opening up big venues, like the old Arco Arena is going to be a place where people can queue up and get shots. But it's just a matter of tuning in and following what's going on in your community. Dave is also posting video 1 about insurance and regulation. Excellent resources. Thank you for contributing. Lynette, if I'm considering joining a few Chamber of Commerce, then what should be the reasons to join versus not? Well, the reason to join any Chamber of Commerce is to meet people and make connections so that you can potentially get future clients. I will say my personal experience in Sacramento, we had a big chamber and then we had a small business chamber. And after about 4 years, the big chamber bought the small business chamber and merged them together. The big business chamber was not good for small businesses, even after they bought the small business chamber. There are people who have truly great luck with their chambers. I would also remind you, like around here, I have more luck with the Asian chamber and the Latino chamber than with the so-called official Chamber of Commerce. You're in Atlanta, I think, right? So you probably have 17 chambers of commerce. I would find the ones that have memberships that you like, and that might mean that you have to visit several of them, but chambers often have an opportunity for you to speak at a luncheon, give a 20-minute presentation, put your flyers on everybody's chair, and get to be known. They're really good for building network connections, people in business who will someday need your services. Remember, all marketing, 90% of the time, 90% of the people don't need what you're selling that day. So you have to be top of mind on the day that something happens, on the day that their other IT person doesn't answer the phone. I would also recommend, and this is a great opportunity, like this is like the river that you're stepping into today. This is an opportunity to get on meetup.com in your area and find business-related meetups. It might be that they're meetups of people in sales. It might be they're meetups of people who do marketing or people who are professional speakers, or there's all kinds of meetups. If you look under business meetups, meetup.com, a lot of those are online meetings today. And I always point to the Rotary and the Kiwanis and these others. There's lots of clubs that have to have a speaker every single week. And, sometimes they get the same speaker 4 times a year because they don't have enough people in rotation. If you have a good 15, 20-minute presentation on whatever, best practices for keeping your computers updated, best practices for avoiding ransomware, that kind of stuff, get a good presentation. You can, once you get into one of those clubs, you can make the circuit. And especially in larger cities, there's an unlimited number of meetups that are business focused. You might have a full-time job going and speaking at these events for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the rest of the year. So obviously you can waste a lot of time there. So you have to focus, but the main thing is build relationships with people, and ask for a meeting. Can I get together and talk about your network, talk about your computer? So that would be my advice. Joining the Atlanta Black Chamber. Absolutely, I would do that. Again, it's an opportunity to meet people. Remember, I always tell the story of Bob Netro, who is a guy that I worked with in Sacramento for many, many years, and we ran the IT user group here for many, many years. I was president for 10 years, and then he was president for 10 years, and then he moved out of town. But he and I would go and make presentations together. And then literally, I remember one specifically, an Enrolled Agents Association, half the crowd went this way and half the crowd went that way. He shows up with an Aloha shirt on, and I've got long sleeves, right? And we just had different ways of making presentations, and half the people went and talked to him and half the people went and talked to me. We both got business out of those get-togethers. And the lesson is, some people will like you and want to do business with you. Some people will just not be interested, and that's okay too. Find the people who like you and know you and want to do business with you. And that's how you'll build your business, one client at a time. Cool. All right. Any other questions? We are shockingly at the top of the hour. It is 9:59 and your next Zoom meeting starts in 32 seconds. So I hope this was useful. Please give me any comments, either on YouTube or send me a note at smallbizthoughts.com. My email is on the screen. I'm always happy to talk to people. We will be talking about this more inside my community. I hope it was useful. And, I hope that you follow me this year. And if there's anything I can ever do for you, please send me an email. If you don't get a response, it's because I get thousands of emails. So send it again the next day and keep sending it. So very good. Thank you all for being here. And I hope you have a truly amazing and successful 2021, and that it's all joy and happiness when we meet again next year. Thank you all.